Welcome to the wonderful world of chocolate and coffee, two of Hawaii's unique crops. We encourage you to support our local farmers and producers by eating, drinking, and buying local. Please join us as we meet the makers behind these one-of-a-kind products.
Oh, good morning and aloha from Moloa'a, Kaua'i, where you'll find HouLau Farm. I'm Howard Ogilvie and
I'm Sally Ogilvie.
And we're the sole proprietors of HouLau Farm Chocolate, where you can find what I would like to believe is the world's best chocolate. We make a 70% dark chocolate bar, and Sally has some special products that she will tell you about.
Our bars use vanilla, and so we have a vanilla business going as well, and that's takes a lot of time, about 9 months to produce vanilla. So we sell vanilla beans, we sell vanilla extract, we use the vanilla extract in our chocolate, and we also sell brownies that are pretty decadent. We're standing in a field with 120 cacao trees that were planted in 2013. And one of the things that's so great about cacao is they grow quickly. They're ready to reproduce the pod or produce the pod in 3.5 or 4 years. And these trees take a lot of work. They need to be pruned often. They get pods that shrivel up and don't grow, but they can be homes for ants, and so we have ant problems. As the tree gets bigger, it has less problems, but when they're young, they require a lot of attention. So these pods are a beautiful red color, but they come in yellow, they come in orange. So it's kind of fun. You never really know what you're getting with that tree. So these pods are about ready to pick, but one of the things that you need to be aware of is it really ripe? So down here is a beautiful red pod, but when you scrape it with your fingernail, you can see that it's actually green. It's not ready to be picked. This one right here, when you scrape it, it's orange, and that's what we go by. We want to pick the pod when it's ripe. So this pod is ripe and ready to be harvested. We've checked it to make sure that it's pumpkin yellow under the skin, and it is. So now Howard is gonna cut it off.
Okay, it's very important not to damage the tree itself when you're cutting the pod, because that's where the next pod is going to be growing out. So once the pods are open, you can see the beans. The stem holding them in the pod, you reach and you pull them all off and strip them off into either a bucket or a tub, and that begins the fermentation process, which is the next step in making chocolate. So before we do that, next thing to do is to taste the beans. This white matrix is very sweet, sugary, and that's what begins the fermentation process, as most people know it, meaning turning sugar to alcohol to vinegar and then CO2 and water. That will happen naturally. What we need to do with fermentation as chocolate makers is to make sure that it goes the way you want it to go instead of the way it would just go naturally. So that occurs inside the chocolate factory, and we'll be going there shortly. Okay, once you've picked a pod, then you go and you pick a whole bunch more. Usually our harvests are between 100 up to 300 or more pods, and each of them gets broken open like so. You strip the beans off and put them in a container, in this case a Homer bucket. And once you've filled the bucket with all the beans from the pods, then you take it into the chocolate factory where it's going to be fermented.
Now we're taking those beans that we've just harvested and stripped into the bucket, and we're going into our chocolate factory, which has a commercial kitchen. in it, and we will process the beans from there. Come on in.
Okay, we're now inside the kitchen of the chocolate factory, and this is the room where it happens. Eventually you walk out of here with chocolate bars. But first, we need to take those fermented beans and bring them in here and put them on the rack where they'll dry. As you can see, they've changed considerably from those white beans that we shucked off into the bucket, and they're no longer damp or wet. And we do that here in our factory by having an air-conditioned room that takes the moisture out while it's cool rather than heating them in the sun. I would mention that air conditioning and all the lighting in our farm, all the electrical is solar powered. So we're off-grid and use only the sun to power our operation. So once they're dried, and that can take upwards of 2 weeks, the next thing to do is to roast them.
So our beans are roasted, and they're ready to be put through a machine called a cracker. The cracker is what cracks the shell and leaves the bean so that you can make chocolate out of it. This winnower turns the bean, the cracked bean, into nibs, and these are nibs. So the shell is discarded, and all we have left are the nibs, and the nibs are what we make chocolate out of.
Okay, well, we're back in the kitchen and we're going to start grinding some chocolate. We take the nibs that we got from the winnowing process, bring them in here, and we put them into the grinder. And Sally can tell you what else we put in the grinder before it becomes real chocolate.
So after the chocolate is ground so that it's a more liquid state, we put in 3 ingredients in our chocolate. We put cocoa butter, about 5% cocoa butter. Every bean has a different amount of oil in it from other parts of the country, but we found this is best for our beans. And then organic sugar, and half of a vanilla bean that we grow here on the farm. So once those are all in, then we start the grinder, and it grinds for 24 hours about, and then we'll be ready to temper.
Okay, the next step after grinding is tempering. Tempering is a process of taking advantage of the fact that chocolate, or rather I should say the cocoa butter in chocolate, can form crystals. And that seems a little counterintuitive, but that's what happens. And what you want to do is get the right crystals in your chocolate bar before it congeals. And to do that, you have to heat the chocolate up, cool it back down to where that one crystal form is ready to go. And then once it's in temper, and you can tell because it starts to congeal on a knife if you stick it in there, then you pour it into the molds and put it into the refrigerator right away. Also a very important step. Okay, Sally and I would like to thank you all for watching. We'd also like to invite you to come visit us at HouLau Farm. You can reach us through our website. That's HouLau, H-O-U-L-A-U, chocolatefarm.com. You'll find in there contact information. Since we're a very small company, very personal, we'd ask that you consider giving us a phone call, but if you're rather, we have both email and text capability, but we make all our own arrangements for the tours. But you'll find a lot of very useful and I hope educational information on the website about our story, about the farm, and how to make chocolate. So, aloha and mahalo for watching.
It is our hope that you will support our local farmers and buy local. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about the delicious goods you've seen today, please visit any of the links provided. Mahalo.